Today marks 1643rd day of daily lessons, daily reflections. And today we'll reflect on measurement of your life. What is not measured doesn't get improved. What is not measured doesn't get improved. I really love that lesson. And everything in life that is needs to be improved, needs to be reflected on, measured, and after that moment we're able to get better. So today we'll share a list of things that we're able to reflect on, and something that we forget what is important to reflect, what to measure. And again, this is not all list, but I think that those are extremely important to truly measure just to make sure that they're able to improve, because those things that I will share today will make or sometimes even break the life. So number one is your operating system. Not just mindset, your operating system. So is that what is your behavior under stress? So be able to reflect, okay, what is my behavior under stress? And be able to rate and measure. How do you like right now? How do you perform under pressure, under stress? Do you shrink or do you uplift yourself? So when you think about those moments when you feel that you had experienced stress, how do you execute on that? And you can rate yourself from 1 to 10. We're able to, when you think about progress, we need to look into daily tolerance. What you're able to tolerate on a daily basis. What kind of stress you're able to tolerate when you're pursuing things. Some, of course, stress is not necessary. But again, it's like extremely important to really measure how much you're able to tolerate and what kind of things to tolerate. Maybe there's some things that you don't need to tolerate. Because sometimes we can measure tolerance in a way that, okay, what do you tolerate that you're not supposed to? So you can measure from 1 to 10. Maybe you are extremely tolerant of the things that is detrimental for your future. So that I want to remove, I want to be not tolerant at all. That means you're able to really improve that. Number two is energy management, not just health. And I always say one of my most important knowledge and understanding and wisdom is that energy is the most important thing in life. No energy, doesn't matter how much money you have, doesn't matter how much time you have, you're not able to really do anything. So that means we need to measure how much energy do you have on a daily basis. And then at that moment when you measure, it's okay, I have maybe 5 of 10. I would love to have. I think that there's so much more in my tank. I just need to really improve my sleep. I need to improve my mental state, emotional state, and because that's going to decrease the energy as well. Because it's not just physical, it's emotional, mental, cognitive energy as well that we need to really measure. Because if your nervous system is always on survival, your energy will be drained. If you're performing and you have a mask on yourself and you are meeting people and you need to really hide under your mask, your energy will be drained. And there's a lot of things that is included in energy management. Number three, standards. And being able to look into, okay, what is my standards in every aspect of our life. My standards for my emotional state, for my mental state, for standards for my money, for my health, for my looks. What are my standards? And then say that it's because we fall on our standards, we fall on our identities, we fall on the habits that we have. Because if we way below our standards, we will start doing the things necessary. So sometimes we need to elevate our standards so we can really do the right thing. But we need to know those standards and really appreciate those standards, accept those standards, and really move forward. Number four is friction versus momentum. And that means that sometimes we need to really stop removing willpower as the most important thing. Sometimes we need to really engineer our environment, because what I mean by that is that if you really need to run, maybe it's much easier to run on a path rather than if you need to run in a river. It will be extremely difficult to run in a river. So your environment will dictate how difficult or easy is to run. And sometimes maybe you don't need to run in the river. Maybe you don't need to run on the sand. Maybe you're able to choose the right path where you're able to run much, much, much more simple. And that's exactly as with an environment. Sometimes we run on the sand, it is much more difficult for us to run because we didn't choose our environment correctly. So be able to measure, okay, how much willpower do I need to use on a single day, and what kind of frictions are there that really requires my willpower to use even more? Because willpower is like battery; it uses up, and I need to recharge it, like energy, and that's why I need to really protect it at all cost. And this is what we need to measure. Number five is identity alignment, and this is extremely important. Already a couple days I was speaking about how important it is to really making sure that we have our values, our identity, our behavior, our life direction, our vision aligned. Because when we feel aligned, we're able to really pursue big things, and there is again less friction, and be able to really say, what are my alignment right now? How many things do I say that I will do and I will do? Because the bigger the gap, the bigger internal conflict, the bigger procrastination. So we can measure how much I procrastinate. Because procrastination is a sign of misalignment. Number six is avoidance map. Again, this is a question that we need to measure how many things do I avoid in my life? Maybe there's things that I'm avoiding. And it's like I'm quite avoidant person right now. I avoid half of important things. I avoid hard conversations. I avoid face my demons. I avoid this and this. So we're able to measure. Be able to measure the things that we potentially avoid. And so like at the moment I'm quite avoidant, but maybe I'm 3 from 10, and I would love to be a 10 and not avoidant at all. And I think that knowing where you're at, acknowledging that you're not where you're supposed to be, and said like I'm not a and step and do one thing at a time. Okay, I used to avoid this, but I'm not avoiding anymore. I used to avoid this, but I'm not avoiding. Maybe I used to avoid emotions, certain emotions. I used to feel discomfort, and I used to walk away from it, but not avoiding it at that anymore. I'm facing. I'm sitting in it or releasing it. And again, this is be able to measure where we at. And this is probably one of the highest ROI action because the things that you avoid will be the jail cell keeping you where you're at. Number seven is leverage. And that means that we're able to really think that sometimes we could be in a plateau, in a one spot, and not able to really move beyond that. And I think that one of the most important things at that moment, we need to learn how to leverage. How to leverage other people. When you leverage people is not just they do work for you. Sometimes the best way to leverage other people is guidance, advice, support. And I think that we need to really, at the same time, measure how much of my life is allocated to leveraging. And that's again, leveraging, developing skills, automating tasks, building things that scale in your life, optimizing. I'm being able to measure, okay, what kind of leverage do I have in life? Do I have any leverage in my life? Do I develop? Again, this is a great way because people who really succeed in the big time in in life, a lot of times they have something that they leverage, especially business owners. You're not able to be a business owner if you do not leverage. It's impossible. Unless you can be a self-employed, it'll be a small business owner. But if you want to have a passive income generating business, of course, leverage is a must. Number eight is time horizon. That means that we're able to measure, okay, so how far do I look? How ahead do I think? Do I think one day ahead? Maybe a little survival? Do I think a week ahead? Do I think a month ahead? Do I think 5 years ahead? Or do I think 20 years ahead? Because this question, how far ahead do you think, will dictate how much calling you're able to see in your life, how much direction you have in your life, how much perseverance endurance you have, like, because when you see yourself 20 years, in the 20 years, there's so many struggles, successes could be. But when you see yourself in one day, in a week, you're not able to see yourself succeeding. You're not able to see yourself becoming the true version of you that really makes things happen. So measuring how far ahead you're thinking is extremely important, because a short horizon is impulse decisions. And sometimes say, why my decisions is not where it's supposed to be? Maybe the horizon for decisions that you're making when you're thinking about the future is just too short. Number 9 is pain and pleasure wiring. And I think sometimes you need to understand that we need to think, okay, how much pain and how much pleasure do I seek? And sometimes we need to really learn to really see that, okay, pain is progress. Not always, not all pain is progress, and sometimes even pleasure is progress. Because interesting thing, because some things that you really want to develop at the beginning will give you a lot of pleasure, and at some point it will become boring, and that boring will become painfully boring. And again, this is able to say, like, how much pain could I tolerate? And this is getting measured. Like, how much pleasure do I need to be able to really pursue the things that I want? And again, those are the things that we able to measure. Because if we avoid pain, we procrastinate, we are over consume because we seek pleasure, and that consumption is a lot of times is a lot of seeking pleasure, and pleasure is a lot of times seeking comfort. So being able to just like, okay, where am I? Do I seek more pleasure? Do I seek more pain? The pain that actually elevates me, because we need to measure what kind of pain, because just going in random pain for no reason is not good as well. Because I learned that sometimes just being still is giving you content, and that's again is a joy and pleasure at the same time. The last one is feedback loop quality. Feedback loop quality. When you think about becoming the best version of yourself, we need to have that feedback loop. And then when I think about my feedback loop, I know that my feedback loop in the past used to be much better, because used to have quite a few mentors in different areas of my life, and I do not have as much as I used to have in the past. And I know that when I think about measurement, again, that's like a great point, is that when you measure at some point in the future might change. Maybe you were at 9, but now because it changed, the things that changed, life changed, you changed, situation changed, a lot of things happened. Now it might potentially move from 9 to 3. And the feedback loop is something that we really need to have, because no feedback, no improvement ever. The feedback for sometimes be able to give ourselves to ourselves. That's extremely important. Feedback as well. Don't not forget about feedback to yourself. That's a reflection. That's awareness. But I think that we always need to seek external feedback that is good. That given by credible, valid person who is extremely good at the area that you're asking question. Because I think that we are guilty sometimes of asking questions of a smart person who is smart in other field, not the field that you're actually asking advice from. And that's why feedback loop quality is extremely important, because I was asking advice from an intelligent person, but is he the wise in the question that you're asking? Because that's an extremely important question. And I think that again, this is a thing that we need to measure. Measure your feedback loop quality. That's the beauty thing. So I would you reflect as well. What do you measure? What do you measure right now? Because as I said at the beginning, what you not if you not measure, and what you not measure doesn't get improved. And there's a lot of things that we can improve of, a lot of things that you can measure. And I shared 10 things today, and I think there's much more than that. So I hope you choose to win, and see you tomorrow.